Rintaro is an ugly and lonely loser, and due to his delinquent appearance, everyone avoids him. However, his life takes a dramatic turn when he meets Waguri, a sweet and loving girl who sees the kindness in his heart. She recognizes him for who he truly is and fills his life with the love and affection he never thinks he deserves. The story begins with Rintaro Tsumugi, a high school student at an all-boys school named Chidori Public School. Chidori is famous for being a dumping ground where all the retards of the city gather in the name of study. Even the pigeons hold their noses flying over this legendary building. But right next to it stands Kikayo Private Academy, a prestigious school for girls who come from rich, high-status families. Although the two schools share the same piece of land, they are worlds apart in terms of status. The girls from Kikayo wouldn't even bother to open the curtains of their class to look in the direction of these dipshits. One morning, Rintaro is heading to school as usual. He exits the subway and crosses the road. A short distance away, he spots his friends arguing with two senior students from a different school. He heads toward them and finds his friends Saku, Ayato, and Shohei messing around with the seniors. One of the seniors then asks them about a tall and blonde-haired guy from their school. Shohei gets surprised and figures out they are looking for Rintaro. Before the senior can say anything further, Rintaro steps up from behind and asks if those guys are causing trouble. Although he speaks casually, his doomsday face scares the shit out of these little turds, and they run away from there. Rintaro misunderstands the whole situation and tells his friends to stop bothering people. Shohei interrupts him, explaining that they're the victims here and mentions Rintaro created this mess in the first place. He says the seniors are claiming Rintaro had a run-in with one of the juniors from their school. Shohei then asks what he did this time, and Rintaro quickly realizes what the commotion is about. On their way to school, Rintaro mentions that last night, he heard people arguing outside his house. Curious, he stepped out to see what was going on and found a couple fighting over cheating and some big misunderstanding. Before he could process anything, the girl slapped the boy and left him like your ex. That poor guy finally gets a taste of reality and starts questioning his life choices. Rintaro feels bad for the guy and approaches him, but unfortunately, his Sigma face terrifies the dude even more than the breakup. The poor guy's soul practically passes on to the afterlife right there on the road. Back in the present, Shohei says the guy probably thinks Rintaro is gonna finish him off. He jokes that running into Rintaro at night could even scare Batman, and that poor guy never stands a chance. While they are talking, two girls from Kikayo walk by laughing and enjoying themselves. But the moment they spot the infamous thugs from Chidori, their smiles vanish, and they walk past without saying a word. One of the girls accidentally drops her handkerchief. Shohei picks it up and tries to return it. But as soon as the girl turns around and sees her handkerchief in the hands of those impure trash, she loses all desire to use it. She tells him to just throw it away and walks toward their school. The boys, being boys, don't care at all and comment that these princesses from Kikayo must really hate them from the bottom of their hearts. Shohei tells his friends that the girls must have just gotten flustered by his good looks, and then they all head to their school as well. Later, in the classroom, Shohei invites Rintaro to karaoke after school. But Rintaro refuses as he has some work to do at home. After school ends, Rintaro rushes home through the heavy rain. When he arrives, his mother scolds him for being late and asks him to help out at the counter in their family bakery, as they're already short on staff. Rintaro asks if she's really okay with someone scary like him working in the front. She reassures him and says it's not a problem because there's only one customer right now, and no one else is going to show up in this weather. Rintaro reaches the counter and sees a cute girl sitting alone and eating cake. Their eyes meet for a moment, and the girl suddenly turns red like a tomato and looks away shyly. In shock, she starts coughing. To make things less awkward, Rintaro quickly brings her some water and apologizes for disturbing her like that. As he looks at the plates, he thinks how such a small girl managed to eat so much cake all by herself. He then wonders if she's a middle schooler. But before he can say anything, the girl stands up, thanks him, and runs away in embarrassment. Rintaro feels a little depressed, thinking he must have scared the girl and that's why she ran away. Later, he tells everything to his mother. She listens carefully and then explains that the girl's name is Waguri. She is a regular customer who visits the bakery a few times every month. Rintaro asks his mother to apologize to Waguri on his behalf so they don't lose a customer because of him. His mother tells him to stop overthinking and says Waguri is not that kind of girl. Then, like a typical money-loving runt, she adds that even if Waguri stops coming, she'll win her back with the special cake from their shop. She'll be hooked again in no time. The next day in class, Rintaro is still overthinking whether he scared Waguri or straight up traumatized her. Then his galaxy brain comes up with a 1000+ IQ plan to check every middle school in the city just to find her and apologize. But he drops that master plan quickly when he realizes he goes to the legendary Chidori public school, which would make him look like a citywide creep. While he is deep in these noble thoughts, Shohei walks up to him and asks if something is wrong. Rintaro replies that everything is fine and then heads out to buy lunch. In the evening, Rintaro is reading a book in his room when his mom suddenly bursts in, banging on the door. Catching her breath, she tells him that Waguri is here and wants to meet him. Rintaro goes downstairs and finds Waguri standing there like a confused NPC who's forgotten their script. But before he can bring up what happened yesterday, Waguri nervously asks if she can treat him as a way to apologize. After some time, both of them sit down in the shop with a slice of cake in front of them. Rintaro suddenly realizes how dramatic this whole situation looks. A younger girl treating him to cake in his own family bakery. But before he can float too far into his dreamland, Waguri snaps him back to reality and apologizes for running off so suddenly the day before. As a proper apology, she offers him the cake from her side. But the moment Rintaro sees how badly she wants the cake, he pushes the plate toward her and tells her to have it instead. Waguri looks confused at first, but then, like a true foodie with zero hesitation, she devours the entire cake that she was supposed to give him. After eating, Waguri starts a conversation and formally introduces herself. She then asks Rintaro for his name, and he introduces himself as well. Rintaro is surprised about why Waguri would want to know about someone like him. But Waguri seems happy and tells him that she has actually seen him before helping his mother at the bakery. Surprised, Rintaro gets excited and asks if she didn't run away because she was afraid of him. Waguri confirms that wasn't the reason, as she had already seen him many times before. Rintaro then asks for the real reason, to which she replies that she ran off because she had never seen anyone staring at her the way Rintaro did that day and gets flustered. Rintaro turns red like a tomato and starts thinking that things have been the other way around till now. Normally, people would get scared when someone like him walked toward them, but this girl is completely different. To escape this little Romeo and Juliet moment, he points out that it's already evening and getting dark outside. Waguri agrees with him and buys a cake to take home before getting ready to leave. Rintaro asks if she'll be okay going alone and offers to walk her to the station since it's already dark outside. But Waguri says she'll be fine on her own, as the station is pretty close from there. Just as she's about to leave, Waguri turns back toward Rintaro and says that she never thought he was scary and asks him to believe her. She thanks him for the cake and walks toward the station alone. Rintaro returns to his room and starts replaying everything in 4K inside his head. He remembers how people had always tried to keep their distance from him and even said things like he didn't look like someone who belonged in a cake shop. Ever since he was a kid, all he ever got was put down by others. While he's busy having a quiet breakdown, his mom comes banging on the door again like it's her boyfriend's place. She holds a cake box that was supposed to be Waguri's and tells him she found it lying in the street. Meanwhile, back on the street, those two seniors from the previous morning grab Waguri and pin her against the wall. She pleads with them to leave her and let her go. But those two retards don't pay any attention and start tormenting her. They ask if she is Rintaro's girlfriend and start laughing when she denies it. They say that it totally makes sense, as someone like her is way too different from a guy like him. Rintaro finally reaches the spot, but instead of jumping in like a hero, he just stands behind a bush and starts eavesdropping like a gossip-loving auntie at a wedding. The boys keep talking trash, saying Rintaro has a scary reputation and calling him a full-blown delinquent. One of them claims they heard from someone who knew Rintaro back in middle school that he was bad news even back then. He went to some dumb school and apparently had a bunch of lackeys following him around. They try convincing Waguri that hanging out with a guy like him would never end well. But Waguri, being an absolute queen, stands her ground and asks how they can judge someone based on some random gossip. She tells them to actually talk to Rintaro in person because he's a really nice guy in real life. But those morons refuse to do so, as if they ever cared whether he was nice or not. Waguri takes a deep breath and tells them they can do whatever they want. But they better stop bad-mouthing Rintaro behind his back because it's straight up disgusting. Her blunt confrontation completely ruins the mood for the two of them. One of them says that since she is Rin's friend, they had planned to mess with him through her. but now they've changed their mind. Before Waguri can figure out what they mean, the bigger one steps back a few steps and suddenly charges at her with a punch. Waguri freezes for a second and shuts her eyes in fear, but Rintaro jumps in at the last moment and takes the hit straight to himself, covering her with his body. His head smashes straight into the wall, and he gets injured. He turns around, and when those two idiots see Rintaro standing there, it scares the hell out of them, and they fly off like background NPCs. Waguri rushes over to Rintaro and starts wiping the wound on his head. She looks panicked and keeps apologizing again and again for dragging him into this mess. Rintaro tells her it's not her fault and says he's injured because he hit his head on the wall from the impact. He then mentions that if he knew she'd get this worried, he would have just stopped the punch in the first place. Waguri looks surprised and asks why he took the hit when he could have easily deflected it. Rintaro replies that it's his punishment for not believing in her. He bows his head and apologizes to her for getting her involved in that mess. Waguri gently tells him to lift his head and reassures him that it's not his fault. But deep down, Rintaro still hates himself for putting someone so kind through something so terrifying, and he keeps apologizing. Waguri pauses for a moment, but then says she doesn't understand what's so scary about him. She thanks Rintaro for saving her, and that soft smile of hers hits something deep within Rintaro's heart, which he can't quite explain. Rintaro starts thinking about how he's gotten used to people judging him just by how he looks. He never expects anyone to actually see him for who he is. Somewhere along the way, he almost gives up on being acknowledged. But after meeting Waguri, he suddenly craves it more than ever. After a short while, they reach the station. Waguri thanks him for walking her all the way and tells him to take care of his injuries. Rintaro says that they'll heal in no time. He then asks her to be careful on her way home, and the two say goodbye to each other. Just as Rintaro turns to leave, Waguri calls out to him. With a warm and precious smile on her face, she softly says she'll come by his shop again, and they'll have cake together. And in that moment, her voice, her shiny black hair, her cheerful smile, and those bright, dazzling eyes steal Rintaro's heart completely. Rintaro goes blank for a moment and agrees, then both of them head their own way. The next day at school, Rintaro arrives early and sits alone in his empty classroom. In his mind, he wonders when he'll get to see Waguri again. He then looks out the window toward Kikayo Academy, the school whose curtains almost never open. But then, he notices some movement behind the curtains at Kikayo. He's surprised by the thought that someone might actually open them today. And before he can understand anything, someone actually pulls the curtain open. To his shock, the person standing there is none other than Waguri. Before Rintaro can even process what just happened, his body reacts on its own, and he quickly closes the curtain and hides behind it like a startled cat. He takes a deep breath and starts wondering what Waguri is doing over there. Then suddenly, his eyes sparkle as he realizes that Waguri studies at Kikayo Academy, the school right across from his own. And that's the end of the video. Please comment and let me know if you want a recap of the next episode of this anime. As always, if you liked what you saw, subscribe to the channel. I'll be uploading a lot of videos just like this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.